Offered by Mr. Garamendi of California. At the end of the bill, before the short title, insert the following: limitation on use of funds. None of the funds made available by this act for California drought response or relief may be used by the Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency or the Secretary of the Interior in contravention of implementation of Division 26.7 of the California Water Code, the Water Quality, Supply, and Infrastructure Improvement Act of 2014, as approved by the voters of California in California Proposition 1, 2014.
What purpose does the gentleman from Idaho seek recognition?
I reserve a point of order on the gentleman's amendment.
Point of order is reserved. Pursuant to House Resolution 333, the gentleman from California and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from California.
Well, Mr. Chairman, despite the potential for a point of order and the amendment being out of order, it really is a good policy. And while it may not come to a vote on this House floor, it certainly ought to come to the attention of the appropriators and the administration that we got a pretty serious drought in the West. It does affect California, Arizona, Oregon, probably parts of Idaho, and on into New Mexico. California voters last November passed a $7 billion water bond that deals with the long-term issues of water supply in California and some of the immediate challenges that the California drought has brought to the 30+ million citizens of the state. This amendment would direct the Department of Interior, the EPA, the Department of Agriculture, and the Department of Defense to focus the money that it would be spending in California under any circumstance, to focus that money on assisting, augmenting, advancing, and supplementing those programs that the state of California is undertaking to address the drought using the Bond Act money. That's a great idea, that instead of spending the money on things that are not immediately relevant, that are not immediately necessary, and do not immediately help those citizens of California, those communities, those agencies in the state that are suffering from the drought, but rather to spend the money on those programs. That's it. Doesn't call for any additional money, doesn't really cause long-term problems to our appropriation processes, but rather says, hey, we got a problem, let's focus on the problem and let's coordinate with the state of California in solving the problem. That's it. Pretty simple stuff. Unfortunately, I guess we may have a point of order, and this rather important concept won't be in the legislation. However, I do think that the administration is aware, and they are beginning to focus appropriately on the drought in California. And I would hope in other states, just as we're suggesting they do here, that they, the administration and the federal government, focus the money that it would otherwise be spending in the state of California and these other states on projects that the local governments, the state governments in those states are undertaking to address the drought. Pretty basic, but I'll reserve my time so that I might challenge the point of order.
Gentleman reserves.
Mr. Chairman.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Idaho seek recognition?
I insist on my point of order, Mr. Chairman. I make a point of order against the amendment because it proposes to change existing law and constitutes legislation in an appropriation bill and therefore violates Clause 2 of Rule 21. The rule states in pertinent part, an amendment to a general appropriation bill shall not be in order if changing existing law. The amendment requires a new determination, and I ask for a ruling from the chair.
Does any other member wish their voice to be heard? Gentleman from California is recognized.
My good friend from Idaho was so right and now so wrong. But that's the way it is. When you got the votes, you got the votes. And nevertheless, this is really a very, very good program. And I would encourage all of us, and particularly the administration, to follow along the policies here. And I would point out that they are. So I challenge the point of order and would ask for a ruling of the chair.